Recording now. Okay, so as of now, we're being recorded, and let's start our show, as it were. Well, it's a slideshow. I don't mean a showbiz show, of course. But we're going to be talking about the evolution of microcurrent, but it's a double entendre, as the French say. John, you'd know that, wouldn't you, being French-Canadian?
Mais oui, mais oui.
Anyway, it's evolution of the technology, evolution of the skills and the medical paradigm, as it were. But we're going to talk about something called an evolution, the Avatsya life evolution. Okay, so I'm going to now call on my experts. Well, they can introduce themselves. I will introduce them a little bit. Hang on, we can't. We're not advancing. There we go. Well, one's me. I think you all know me. I won't dwell on this one, but I've been around a while. I'm coming up to my 75th birthday later this year. All right, this is the team. This is the Avatsya team. John, wife, we call her Laurie, but her real name's Lorraine, and son Rob. They're a great team. So who's going to start the introductions?
John.
We start with John.
I think it was me.
Oh, no,
That was me last time.
All right, you start this time, John. Okay.
Okay, yes, I've been around a few years. I've been around the block a few times, as they say. I started out maybe 35, 40 years ago.
Longer.
Or was it longer?
I think so.
I don't want to ever have to say. But I did start out as an herbalist, in herbology is what I studied, and then I went on to naturopathy, and then to homeopathy, and to biofeedback and neurofeedback. I followed up with a doctorate in natural medicine, and then later on got my PhD in integrative medicine, East meets West sort of thing. And also, I wrote my thesis on accelerated wound healing, so it was very revealing for me, and all that research over a couple of years, and you finally finish your thesis. Yeah, so that's pretty well me. We were involved. We started getting involved in microcurrent.
20 years ago together.
20 years ago. Oh my God.
A long time.
You take it over.
Well, I've been in the health field for about 40 years. I'm slightly younger. So, but yes, I've studied most of the same as John. So it was funny when we came together to find we had so many interests.
Same books.
Same books on the bookshelf.
Yeah.
We have one set in French and one in English, which is really quite amusing. So yes, but microcurrent has been a passion of both of ours for the last 20 years. So that's really where we are at the moment.
Right, and one of the books you had in common was My Virtual Medicine, of course.
Perfect.
Now reborn as Medicine Beyond.
The first book she tossed it, she put it into, or thrust it into my hands.
Yeah, and that was it.
When we first came together in England.
Yeah.
And she said, "You've got to read this." And I did.
And she was right. You had to.
Yeah.
You couldn't.
I had to meet this Keaton Scott Mumby fellow. Sounds very interesting.
Yeah, which we did. Okay. If Rob's not in the room, young Rob, just tell us about him briefly, because most people are going to bump into Rob after the encounter of the webinar, aren't they? So
yeah, yes, and Robert will be on live chat as well. So if anyone has any questions, well, Robert joined us really as about a year and a half ago, but we sort of put him through the ringer before he was allowed to join us. Really, he had to go and get a couple of degrees, and he was doing English, but decided he wanted to join the business, so we sent him away to get a degree in business, and then he did his health, and so now he treats most of the patients that come to our clinic, and he also does all the social media, a lot of the webinar things. He does a lot of the things. John can sort of sit back and just say, okay, it's my time to relax a bit. So.
Yeah. Now, when you said you allowed him to join you, you slightly omitted the fact you gave birth to him, honey. Come on.
I did. He's my eldest son, and he's the second one in, because John has a boy that's older. So yeah, he's lovely. Rob will do anything for anyone. He's really easy to work, and he's totally, so smart.
Totally sweet and easy and thoughtful. Okay, let's get on with it. What the hell is microcurrent therapy? People have seen this word splashed around on my emails. Let's have a basic definition, John, can we?
Well, I think the first interesting part that we want to look at in microcurrent is that it's actually cleared by the FDA for pain management, which is a big thing. Which
And
means that
injuries, John, or not? Did they not clear it for sports injuries?
yeah, all forms of pain, sports
Ah,
injuries as
okay.
well, muscle relaxation, muscle re-education.
Hmm.
So it has many clearances by the FDA. So we're in there as valid as the pharmaceutical industry and so on and so forth. Only they have more money and they have bigger elbows and they keep shoving us over. But we definitely are, as we'll see in a few moments, definitely an answer to a lot of the missing elements in pain management. So it is a long-lasting, it has long-lasting anti-inflammatory effects. It has it actually through the peripheral nervous system, which is that nervous system that connects, that takes everything from your limbs, your toes, your arms, and connects it to your brain. And it also involves your central nerve, your brain and your fight or flight response, your autonomic nervous system. So it reduces then the need for the narcotic intervention that we'll talk about in a few minutes.
Right. Now, what do you mean by micro? How tiny is this current? How small? How does that compare with tens, for example? I think we address that question later, don't
Yeah.
we? But just
Microcurrent compared to a TENS device is about 1,000 times weaker. In principle, microcurrent is what your brain uses to communicate with your heart to your brain, and the two of these to the 50 trillion cells that make up your body.
right.
So it is part
Sorry.
of your body's
Oh,
communication system.
yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry. You took a breath, and I interpreted that as you'd stopped. All right. Pain and inflammation. What's the connection, John?
So in inflammation, we hear a lot about redness, heat, swelling, and pain, of course, and loss of movement. These are all, and inflammation was described like maybe over 2,000 years ago.
Well, I think I'll go to the next slide then, because this is what you're actually talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
describes it. So inflammation then is the first thing that seems to appear when we hurt ourselves. We take a splinter, for example, because everybody's had a splinter somewhere in their lives. And when you see a splinter, you can see almost immediately redness, and then you can feel the heat and the swelling and the pain from the splinter. And this is all, this inflammation is supposed to speed up the healing process right from the get-go.
And it does at first, doesn't it? But then we
It
get
does.
stuck with it. Then when it becomes what they call chronic, which means it won't go away, that's when the problem starts, yeah?
That's when the problem starts.
And autoimmune diseases, can you connect those for me, John?
The autoimmune diseases are all connected to inflammation, but chronic inflammation, the inflammation that did not go away.
Right. Okay, so I think you mentioned these. Just hammer them home, as it were.
Yeah.
We used to. Did you learn?
The medical version is of Rubor, Dolor, Calor, Tumor.
Yeah.
Every medical student studies.
It has to learn those, yeah. And then there's another one, which in Latin, functio liza. Come on, let's finish showing off with Latin. What does that mean? So
the loss of function, of course, is that you don't move because it hurts.
yes, it's not good. But of course, pain is the big one, or the one that worries people. Swelling's bad enough. Loss of function's bad enough, but it hurts, so we don't like that. And then we're into painkillers, yeah?
And people are surprised to hear because a lot of these medications are promoted online on TV. About every half hour, we have some kind of commercial that comes on telling us about how wonderful these pain medications really are.
Do you get all that crap in Canada as well?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And even death, when they're saying that there can be
side effects, they gabble them as fast as they can go and say, including death.
Yeah, and I was thinking, really?
I'd rather have a sore elbow, wouldn't you, than
Yeah,
dead?
exactly.
Yeah. I'll keep my problem. Thank you.
But look, it is serious. The fourth leading cause of death.
In the
That makes it.
USA, and we're not talking about overdoses. This is properly prescribed medication.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of people misunderstand that. They think, no, they mean it's people topping themselves by taking too many pills. No, it's not. Oh,
Yeah.
come on. These are the different kinds. Laurie, join in whenever you feel ready. Okay.
I will, but don't carry on because he knows all this.
Yeah.
We both know all this stuff. She has a sweeter voice than I have.
And she's the good-looking one. Trust me.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's kind of,
Not anymore. No.
no.
You're cute.
No, you can't. So we know that whenever you people get pain, the first thing they look towards is Tylenol, for example, because you can get it over the counter. So anything you can buy over the counter, it's got to be good, and
It's got to be safe. People think
safe.
it's just not.
And we're starting to understand. I know you told us a story about once about Cuba. I think it was autism and Tylenol.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, it's not there. It's here. I mean, the standard treatment for anyone who has a vaccine gets fever next day, because that's what vaccines do. And they give them Tylenol. And it may be that the Tylenol is doing the damage. Because, as I say, here it's routine, and they even start prophylactic Tylenol before the vaccination, the day before. Could be the story, because the important thing, as you said, was Cuba. Cuba do not use Tylenol. They just don't. I've forgotten the name of the drug they do use. They use no Tylenol, and yet they have virtually no autism. And you might say, well, of course, they're not bothering with vaccines. Yes, they are. They have a 99% plus uptake on vaccination with their kids, but no autism. So, people have started to think, well, what is it then if it's not the vaccines? Could be the Tylenol. Could be. So don't give your kiddie Tylenol. If you're in Britain, what's it called? Paracetamol. Just don't. Aspirin would be better, but better would be some homeopathic anti-inflammatory. Yeah, okay, that's my platform.
So it went from Tylenol, and we went to the NSAIDs, or what we call non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. And they're touted and they're promoted even more. Like pain, what pain? I think we all saw the commercials, but that Aleve, I think it's called. Yeah, it's one of them.
Ibuprofen, there's all kinds, aren't there?
Ibuprofen. Now, all of these medications, people think that they're safe, again, because they're over the counter. But one of the first things that they may cause over a period of time is heart attack. All of a sudden, people get a heart disease, or they get liver disease, or they get kidney disease. These are all part of the adverse effects of the NSAIDs. And the label is very strategically stuck on. You got to peel it off and read all of these adverse effects.
And of course, you don't peel it off till you bought it.
Yes. And in fact, you don't usually peel it off anyway. So it passes you by that you're sold these things, and then on the label is a warning saying, don't buy these things, effectively.
Now, the next in line after that, then we start getting to the more serious medication and what we call steroids or prednisone. And anybody who's been on prednisone, one of the first things that seems to appear is night sweats, anxiety, loss of sleep,
depression.
They go into forms of depression because of this lack of sleep and all of the other things that go on with it. And then you'll find that it kind of robs potassium out of your body, holding back more sodium, giving you that nice round face.
Yeah, and a nice round tummy. You gain weight and go pot-bellied. Not good. Yeah. What are COX inhibitors?
Now, COX inhibitors would be what we call Vioxx, Celebrex. These medications were supposed to be an answer to the NSAIDs and the Tylenol, because they knew that the Tylenol and the NSAIDs were actually causing intestinal damage. So they said, well, the COX inhibitors will introduce these as the ultimate answer. But guess what? Vioxx, made by Merck Pharmaceuticals, was taken off the market after an estimated 60,000 deaths occurred with 140,000 heart attacks.
Yeah,
Now
and some
that's
people think
more,
it's
that's
higher
more
than that, don't they?
COVID-19.
Some think it's higher than that. Okay, listen, let's roll on. I know opiates is in there, but I think everybody knows what opiates are and the problems. So let's move on to microbiome. I wrote a book called Fire in the Belly, as you know, that the fire, the inflammatory fire, often starts in the gut. But what have you guys got to share with us?
Well, yeah, again, the fire and I think your book was absolutely an extraordinary book that came along before the microbiome became popular.
You're always ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. 10, 20 years ahead. I was doing microbiome back in the 80s.
That's right. That was a great.
Those are the days.
Still is. It's way out there.
Yep.
And what we're understanding is that the microbiome, of course, is responsible for everything from depression to you name it. And we're able now to gauge what's going on in the intestines, and all of your immune response apparently is in the intestines as well.
Most of the immune tissue, yes, down there in the gut. 80% of it, they say, Peyer's patches in the gut, huh?
And we'll see a little bit further on, I believe, on another slide.
Well, let's go to the next one, because we want to bridge a little bit between gut inflammation and the vagus nerve, don't we? Not too fast, don't jump onto vagus nerve stimulation, but let's start joining the dots, John, at this point. Explain this for me.
The vagus nerve, of course, there's a connection between all of the different organs and systems and your brain. So your brain has to know what's going on down below, right?
Everything below the neck.
So it actually connects, the gut is actually connected to the brain via the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve is your sort of internet cable, isn't it?
It is like the internet
your internet cable, yeah.
So you have, I think, 7 times more information that goes from the gut to the brain than the brain to the gut.
Ah, okay, good. And then this one.
Now, this is Maslow's pyramid, of course.
Hierarchy of needs. Somebody may know that as folks who are listening. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It starts at the bottom of the triangle with the purple, or the pyramid, and works up to the top, the good stuff, the self-actualization. Very famous, but we don't need all of this. So what are we going to use? Which part?
I think we'd all like self-actualization or achieving one's full potential. That's what we all aim for. But why don't the majority of people ever make it to the top of the pyramid? Simply because if the physiological needs, and then you climb to the next step, which is security and safety, but if the physiological needs are not met, you tumble back down to the first.
You can't be smart and wise if you're starving or cold. And, don't know where the next meal's coming from. Yeah.
So yeah. So if the foods that you eat are harming your microbiome, then you will tumble back down to the first basic needs.
Yeah, you'll just feel yuck instead of feeling self-esteem and self-actualize. Okay, I forgot why this slide's in here. We're not jumping, are we? Anyway, let's say we're going to be talking about devices, folks. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have a solution. And that's on the right. Now, I'll take over for a minute because the scanner, the Russian scanner I wrote about, in the book we mentioned before, it was called Virtual Medicine, and I described it as Star Trek medicine. This little thing you held in your hand like this could practically raise the dead. You remember, what's his name, Scotty? No, Bones. Was Bones and Scotty?
Bones, yeah.
He had this thing and he'd click a button and the guy could grow a new arm or something. So I thought, we're getting very close, folks.
Yeah. I don't think it was that evolved, but he called it a tricorder.
Oh, did he? Anyway,
he was able to, by beaming it over the person's body, he was able to get a full diagnosis.
Right.
And from the diagnosis, he was able to
grow
better the prognosis.
grow an arm.
Yeah. Anyway, this little beast on the left, we loved it. That's what brought the three of us together. It did formidable things. It would do defibrillation, wouldn't it? It'd been used. You turn the volume right up, slap it on somebody's chest, and they jerk back into life. All I've got to say, I suppose, on this side, is that we can do better. Laurie, take over a little bit. You know, this is your evolution particularly, isn't it? You guys have spent years perfecting these devices. Let's have some history.
Well, this one is the evolution really has been something that has evolved from all the other devices. So we've chosen the best of all the others and put them in this device. This device has 8 modes that are simple to use and really cover all the pain, isn't it? All the pain.
All the different levels of pain,
yeah.
Whether they be neuropathic, or they be referred pain, or they be acute or chronic pain, exacerbated pain.
So it can do all of the different pain methods that we need. So it can resolve all of those. So yeah, it's just taking really the best and the most useful to give someone something that they can at least resolve a lot of their problems with: pain, muscle relaxation.
Yeah. And we've taken it one step further than that, and we'll see in the following slides just how far we've actually gone.
Yeah. Well, listen, for those of you who are not familiar with the brilliance and power of these devices, this family of devices, this is awesome. So I brought these pictures in again because, not everyone has seen them, and they're just gobsmacking. Tell us, what are we seeing here?
This is Michael's foot. Michael is 21 years. He was.
Michael Foot was a British politician, wasn't he? You're getting me mixed up now.
Not that Michael Foot.
Michael Foot.
This is Michael's foot. Okay.
Michael was studying to become a search and rescue technician here on the Air Force Base, which we sit just next door to. And part of his task was to go up north to northern Alberta, and he would do a self-sufficiency program for 5 days. And he forgot the first day, he was exhausted, forgot to dry his feet, and froze his toes.
Woke up the next morning with that.
Yeah. Now this one on his big toe, that's actually a huge blister, look. So the skin is peeling away from the tissues underneath. And he was scheduled for amputation. Yeah, I mean, he got frostbite, your toes are dead. You got to cut them off, otherwise they just turn to gangrene and you're done.
They finally got him into us. I think it was on a Thursday, and we worked on him over the weekend because we knew on the Monday the man with the knife was going to see him.
He was booked for amputation on the Monday.
Yeah.
So we had to hurry because he's only 21 years old. We didn't want him to lose his toes. It would have been a terrible thing.
Right. And long story short, he didn't lose his toes.
So 10 days later, I mean, we saw him on several occasions, and we lost him for about 5 days where he went to the mainland because we live on an island here in Vancouver Island. So he went to Vancouver to see his girlfriend. And
wasn't limping, presumably.
So when he did come back on day 10, I called his sergeant up and I said, could you get a hold of this patient for me? I definitely need to see him. I need to close this case. I need to know how he's doing. So he gave me his phone number. I gave him a call, and he told me, he said, I'm doing just fine. I said, I need you to come in. And he said, well, I don't have a vehicle. And I said, well, I'll pick you up. He said, don't worry. He says, I'll jog over. You're going to jog over? That's 5 miles anyway.
5 or more.
5 miles or more. So he showed up with a backpack and a bottle of wine.
Oh, yeah, I've forgotten the bottle of wine.
Can I take some pictures?
Good boy.
Yeah.
And then you took the pictures.
Befores and afters, yeah.
Right. I was going to say. Oh yes, sorry. Let me just step in and make this announcement, which I keep doing, you guys. Those of you who've joined us late, welcome, and I hope you haven't missed too much. And you can always go back and watch the recording. We're quite happy to answer questions. There is a Q&A facility. If you hover at the bottom of the window that's showing this program, you'll see Q&A. Just click on it, and you'll be allowed to ask questions. And we will endeavor to answer everybody's questions, but we won't do them during the talk. Somebody's put their hand up. Alice, we won't do it now. We'll do it later, because it otherwise breaks the flow, and that's not good for anybody. Certainly not good for the experts who lose their thread of thinking. And also, we might answer your question anyway, so just please be patient. Okay, let's crack on then, guys. So here's another before and after.
You want to comment on that one? Chronic regional pain syndrome.
Oh, you go.
Yeah,
So you dealt with
CRPS.
this one. I didn't deal with this one.
Yeah, this one, you can see his fingers on his left hand are like sausages compared to the right hand.
Yeah.
We'll skip over the fingernails, but
I was going to say, it's not an attractive hand by any stretch.
No.
no. He's a carpenter, uses his hands a lot.
Oh, I see, right, yeah,
And
okay. It's
his
forgiven.
pain in his left hand, it was chronic. He was no longer able to do his carpentry. He was out of work, and he needed
my
to
gosh.
get back.
Yeah.
So it was only after one treatment, you could see that his hand went totally back to normal.
It was very red. Remember we said it was redness, swelling, pain,
That's right.
and loss of function, and the one on the right, no, the after doesn't have that. Was this actually diagnosed as something like rheumatoid
It was
arthritis?
CRPS. I think he's
Yeah.
from New
Or
Zealand.
regional pain syndrome? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Regional
Oh.
pain syndrome. But we have done other regional pain syndrome patients very
We've had a
successfully.
lot,
yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
haven't we?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so now wound healing. This is based on a skin graft. 4 days. This is 3 weeks of stuff, guys. It takes 3 weeks to properly heal a skin graft.
Yeah.
4 days? You kidding me? What are we seeing here, John?
What happened is this fellow was from Missouri. He was stomped. His foot was stomped on by his horse. Seems that people that have horses always seem to have
Always
some
get injured.
co-injury of some kind. And what happened is that they decided to take a skin graft from his arm and place it on the injured foot. What
Oh,
happened?
so this
then
was the donor site then, is it?
This is the
Yeah.
donor site.
Ah,
That's
right.
right.
Okay, yeah.
and he was walking around with this open wound that they hadn't tended to. The skin graft on his foot went bad because he got golden staph. He got MRSA in his foot.
MRSA, yeah. Oh dear.
So they started. This was done by Diane Evans from Missouri, and she worked with our device. 4 days later, we have pictures of the how it evolved, and this is about as great as it gets. That wound is completely
Completely
gone,
healed
yeah.
now. I
Yeah,
should
yeah.
put a-
Closed to the outside in 4 days. Wow. Yeah. Okay, Laurie, you take over for this one, please.
All right. So this guy, yes, he got these burns, and he was a Russian.
He was a
guy?
Russian fellow.
Mm.
It was an arc welder.
Electric arc thing, wasn't it? So you can see from the evolution of the days, it didn't take very long, but the Russians were straight in there with the old Skeena,
Oh yeah, of course.
and
That
they
would be
went
their
straight
first.
in and they just worked on both his hands and his face, and you can see that it did not take long at all before
2 weeks.
it was.
Yeah.
It
24th of October, then
Yeah.
the 28th of October, and then the 7th of November.
Yeah. So they didn't
Whoa.
do any treatments, and it was so quick, and this was something that impressed us at the time.
Yeah, what I mean, this guy was facing being hideously
Yeah.
scarred. I mean, look
And
at his face.
he's a good-looking guy.
Yeah,
He's-
well, yeah, over there on the top right, he
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
and he's got full function in his hands now. So, yeah, he was very lucky that the
Good looking
Skeena.
guy. No wonder you find him cute.
Right now, and let's say again, this is with this simple device. It is beyond brilliant.
Oh,
The
yeah.
fact that it can do this. Why can it do this? Well, basically, life, is electrical in nature. It's not chemicals and stuff. That's only a fraction of the story. We are electromagnetic energy or electrical energy beings and bodies. So if you use electricity in healing, even if it's very tiny like microcurrent, you can get hugely dramatic transformations like this. Okay, let's do something a little bit more ordinary than miracle. Frozen shoulder is pretty bad. This gal, I'm guessing, on the left is showing she can't raise her left arm, yeah?
No, it was over a year and a half. I believe that she, progressively got worse. Was not able to raise it at all. I did a training in Sacramento, and she came in on the training, and she said, "I've got to get back I've got to get back home." I think she was somewhere in California, and so I did a treatment on her arm, and within maybe 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes at the most, she was able to wave her left arm in the air.
She's waving to us with the arm that wouldn't go above. That's why they call it frozen shoulder. You can't get it above that. I mean, you can, but it's agony, so you can't. You just won't let yourself do it.
Yeah. This is fairly common, and I just mentored somebody who's written her PhD, and it was actually done on frozen shoulder, treated with this technology.
Yeah.
It was the very first thing I saw with the Russians, from wherever they can't, I've forgotten the name of the city now, Taganrog, but they came over to London, and the very first case I saw was just like this, a frozen shoulder, 10 minutes fixed. The girl couldn't believe it. All right, Laurie, you help us out here because you're good with the animals.
Oh, this is this is the puppy from Israel. So this puppy was found on the streets and taken in by someone, wasn't it? By a guy?
By a guy who found him on the sidewalk, and he took him home.
And took him to the vets in the end, didn't he? And the vet said that the puppy would need to be put down. There was just no chance of survival. But
is that a complicated fracture on the right?
Yes, it is. But also he got internal injuries, and he was close to death.
He's covered with parasites. And
Oh God, flea bag.
They said the safest thing or the best thing for him would be to put him out of his misery. But
they were wrong.
They were wrong. Someone knew our friend Libby, who has one of the devices, and called her up and said, "Is there any chance that you could work on this dog?" And she did, and she brought the dog back to life. I mean, the dog was fine, wasn't it? No problems at all. All the internal injuries gone. The leg was healed.
Yeah, we actually have a video of this dog running
around, which is so cool.
Yeah. Okay. So, can people find that? Where have you got it, on Vimeo or on YouTube?
I think it is on Vimeo, isn't it?
Yeah. It might be on Vimeo. I know I have it on my computer, so we can.
Yeah. Well, if you can give me a link, I'll circulate it among our people. Now, here's something that nobody's going to understand. What is a Qui Wave or a Chi Wave? I happen to know. Chi Wave PMF pad. What's that?
Now, what's interesting about the technology is we actually have a port into which you can connect what we call a PEMF, or pulse electromagnetic.
Can you hold it much closer to the camera, Laurie, please?
It's just a port on the side.
Yeah. Show us front and back, actually, near up as well. Yeah, we can see the whole, but show us front and back as well.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Just show us front and back as well. So there are electrodes, and there's the fascia. Yeah. Okay. So just as long as people are not confused what you're talking about. It just
plugs into the portal there, and it's a pad.
It's actually we have pads, and we also have a handheld device. The pads are great for animals because you can put it right under the crates, and the frequency will emanate right through the crate and right through the animal's body.
Yeah. So a healing EMF. Yeah. Okay, now tell us about Alexis. I love this story. I've been in love with the story ever since I saw your video with him, Danny. Go on, tell us this.
Alexis, sweet little puppy, but very, very naughty. Got on the sofa one day when John and I were away and jumped off and skidded on the wooden floor and broke the leg. So it's like, oh my gosh. So Robert phones us up in a panic. He was quite young at the time, and he says, "What do I do?" And I says, "Well, what's the vet saying?" And he says, "Well, the vet says that you're going to have to put the puppy down because you're not going to be able to heal this or amputate the leg." And I'm like, "Oh, don't be silly. Just Robert, just tell the vet that you're going to take the dog home. Just let them cast the leg, take the dog home, and we'll work on it." So we actually we got Robert to work till we got home 2 days later. We had to cut short our vacation. We came home, and Robert was working on the other leg because the cast, and that's all we did. We worked on the opposite leg. We took back for x-rays about a week and a half later, and they says, what are you doing? Because this is healing and it shouldn't heal. And it's just like, well, it will do because we're using a microcurrent device. You're using a what?
Well, you know, they should know. Most vets should know this because the consolidation of wounds with microcurrent is nothing new. We started doing it in 1965.
But I don't think they expect people outside to be doing it. So yeah, Alexei was fine, and he was only 2 at the time, and actually passed away at 11 years old.
That's a reasonable age, yeah.
It is, because he was a Pomeranian, so he had other, problems with his nose and,
breathing.
Sort of things.
Breathing problems.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I've got a friend who uses these devices to treat horses, and I remember a picture you sent me.
Yeah.
So you know somebody who uses it for horses, yeah?
We know a lot, actually. We have quite a few people that use it on horses regularly, race horses as well as normal horses. Just, they have brilliant times, don't they, doing it? They do vagus nerve stimulation on the horses.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, you have to tell me how we find the vagus nerve on a
Oh,
horse.
it's really easy. When I went to a ranch last year, this girl, Heidi, she showed me exactly how to do it. It was so easy. It's easier than on a human.
Oh, really? Oh, great.
Yeah, because it pulses as you go down. It's really quite amazing to do.
Oh, yeah. I was surprised to see that video that you came back with, yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more in depth then about the Avatzia Evolution. This is your own unique device, isn't it? You developed this. It's not available anywhere else in the world. It's yours, your proprietary device, as it were. Tell us what's good about it. I know what's good, but tell the people.
Well, if you look on the right side, you'll see that we scroll down. We have 7, 12, 32, 45, so on and so forth. And what
if you can see my cursor, but it's that diagonal bar there.
That's right. So each one of these programs or features, first one is vagus nerve stimulation. Now, we've talked a lot about vagus nerve, how it connects from the gut, and it wraps itself around all of the organs and systems of the body. But the major thing about the vagus nerve, particularly at this time in our lives, when people are so stressed out, is that it actually, number one, it will actually put the brakes on inflammation. It's like putting the brakes on in your car. You hit the brakes, inflammation stops dead in its tracks. This is particularly interesting because when you have inflammation, when you're stressed, you do not repair.
Yeah.
Repair is impossible when you are stressed. That's
important
number
point.
one.
Okay. We'll
Now,
come back to vagus nerve in a little bit, won't we? Go into detail then. What else can the device do?
The other benefit, of course, is what we call 3245 is actually gamma stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
And gamma stimulation is the latest findings, how it connects to Alzheimer's, for example. That gamma stimulation is one of the new ways that they have found to be able to resolve certain other problems. Post-traumatic stress disorder is one of them, ADD, ADHD, and I think it's depression, drug-resistant depression. All of these things are now FDA cleared for the treatment of.
That's amazing.
Have this one in the device.
So we have this in the device, and it actually, gamma has a whole list of other things that you can do with it. For example, increase memory recall. Anybody need any of that?
Yeah.
Increase sensory perception, increased focus, increased processing speed, increased happiness. Wow, that's a big one.
This is good for an older population then. It's good for everybody, but people over 60 should be quite interested in what this device can do for your state of mind and your brain function, yes?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's not only for that whole generation, but even the younger generation as well, who want to increase their own perception.
Yeah.
And
all right, scar tissue. Come on.
Yeah.
Keep
The other
rolling.
one is a scar tissue, where we understand, and we'll see a little bit more on scar tissue, that scar tissue kind of breaks down communication between cells and systems in the body.
Right.
And it
Anti.
builds an electrical charge that we'll talk about.
Right.
The other one is 121, which is your anti-inflammatory program, or one of them.
Which is acute? Is it this one, or is it 350 is the acute inflammation?
350 would be more acute.
Okay.
121 is more chronic, with modulation on and off.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the fMRSI that we'll talk a little bit more about, and its capacity of being able to increase energy at the cellular level. And why energy is necessary is to be able to make new cells, and why you want to make new cells will increase the speed of repair.
Right. So let's we need to emphasize you guys developed all this, well, not all of it, but all this stuff is in your evolution device precisely because you're world-class experts and you know what you're doing. So you wanted this series of basic programs, and that's been developed. So the evolution, can we say it's good for that? I mean, a pro person could use it, yeah? I mean, there are pro devices, but the ordinary person could use this to produce all kinds of miracles. I mean, like wound healing, or that guy with frostbite. I mean, that was only an anti-inflammatory process,
yeah, we could have used this device for that easily.
As well,
yeah.
Definitely. The thing about this device is that it's not just single frequencies. These are programs or algorithms, they call, written on the chip.
Right.
So it's a microprocessor. It isn't just a frequency generator.
So it's frequencies, waveforms, and the intervals, and all sorts of very subtle things that it's based on your knowledge and experience. Yes, great. Okay.
And one of the other things, and
so we're talking about vagus nerve. Let's.
We're back
trying to work out your diagram. I think I've seen. In fact, I'll tell you what. I'm going to go to the next one, then come back. This is a diagrammatic version of what we're going to look at. You see this jagged electrical zzz on the side there. That's stimulating the vagus nerve. So that's what this fancy artistic diagram is showing. But anyway, come on, talk us through it now.
The vagus nerve stimulation, I think, hit the highlights. It hit
about 2-3 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was actually following. It actually came out in Scientific American.
Oh, that was a 2015, March 2015, I remember it. Really? And it described microcurrent therapy as the medicine of the future or something like that, didn't it? And they said this may be the answer to diabetes, even cancer. I can't remember what else they said. Pretty striking.
It was actually picked up by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, which is Defense Department out of the USA. And it was actually then followed up by the National Institutes of Health, who developed a program called SPARC, SPARC. So if you want to take a look at it, you can actually Google NIH, second word, SPARC, and you'll find that the NIH have been working in the background to replace medication with
microcurrent therapy.
Absolutely.
I love it. Yeah, keep going. What's CRPS? Come on, what's that?
Chronic regional pain syndrome.
Okay, yeah, you've mentioned that a few times.
Yes.
So it can do a lot of things. And as you said, the vagus nerve is really about shutting down inflammation.
And only then can you start to heal, because, like I mentioned before, if you're in an inflammatory program, you are on fight or flight. If you're in fight or flight, it's impossible to heal.
Right.
Story goes about the bear running after the person, and the person's got diarrhea. Does the body stop and say, I better fix my diarrhea? You say, no, I'm going to keep running from this bear. I'll fix the diarrhea once
we're through this bit.
Yeah. So the thing is, does your body stop to deal with the danger first, or do you eat your sandwich? Do you digest your food? Do you do your repair work? No, you don't. You run like hell.
Flight or fight. Yeah, now you don't recommend vagus nerve stimulation for acid indigestion do. Instead of Pepto-Bismol, you go zzz in the neck, stimulate your vagus nerve, and all will be well.
Yeah.
I can see that coming
Keith?
someday.
Yeah. You know what they say, Keith? They say
What?
it's not what you eat, it's what's eating you.
Yeah. Now, of course, the whole point of the Scientific American article is they were talking about big pharma developing implants that will work your vagus nerve, 100, 10, 20,000, probably a lot more, because they have to be redone every few years. It was all new big pharma, money-grabbing stuff, but we got there first, actually, didn't we? So,
Yes, we did.
what were they called? SmithKline French, wasn't it?
SmithKline, yeah.
No, SmithKline Glaxo. No, GlaxoSmithKline.
SmithKline.
Anyway, they developed one of these implant things, and sure, it works. We know it works, but why pay all that money when you can do it for yourself at home, sitting on the sofa while you're watching some Netflix?
Well, the problem with anything that you implant is that it stays there, and it will go on in the most inappropriate moments. When maybe you need a bit of stimulation in what you want to achieve, and it just goes on and says, oops, sorry, dear.
Has anyone described erectile dysfunction as a side effect of these devices? I've never heard of that. I'm going to study that, see if that actually works. Anyway, so let's do vagus nerve stimulation our way instead of implanting expensive electronic devices in your neck. Ugh, I don't like the thought of that, do you?
No.
Not even in my backside, but in the neck. There's so much good stuff here. I'd be very, very worried. Yeah.
Well, what we discovered a while back, we have a white probe then.
We do, but that's also the...
So what we discovered is that by using this kind of instrument here.
Push it closer to the camera.
Yeah, right here.
Yep. Yeah.
So
it's two electrodes.
If I place it on Laurie's vagus nerve, which is right here, on a program called Alpha that's in this device, that we will achieve the same thing as the implant.
And we also have a conductive pad that some people use that comes with the kit.
Yeah, so you just stick that over the spot.
Yeah. So it's
well, it seems almost too good to be true, too simple, but it's not, is it? I mean, a small current, a small well-designed current, the body will respond.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've got Christine here. She says I gave my aunt vagus nerve stimulation in Little Wing. She was then able to smell after 20 years. Now, whenever I see her, she has her vagus nerve stimulation. So we have many.
So many testimonies.
I mean, people buy our technology for this capability.
I've got to say, Little Wings is just a special technique we use with these devices. Yeah. All right, so you said it can do neurofeedback stuff.
Well, neurofeedback, we talk about alpha, beta, delta, theta, gamma frequencies that the brain uses. And the one of the majors that I talked about was gamma, right? Mm-hmm. So with gamma, you can achieve sleep, anti-anxiety, anti-depression, PTSD, and many more. So the two of the algorithms that we made into the evolution are the alpha and the gamma frequencies.
Right, so you got feel-good frequencies in there as well as solving pain. Wow, what else can it do?
So the neurofeedback alpha program keeps us out of fight or flight, and we know what the fight or flight is. The fight or flight is what 80 to 90% of our population are going through right now. And when you're in fight or flight, you do not repair. Remember that.
Yeah.
You're more susceptible to all kinds of things happening to you.
So alpha is the kind of relaxed, daydreaming-y, kind of real de-stressing, relaxed feeling, isn't it?
It's what we call eat, sleep, digest, assimilate, and repair.
So you can do that by just plugging some clip on your ears and then connect it to the device and switch it on. And
easy. Perfect.
Yeah.
See?
Okay, great. Yeah.
You can
All
walk
right.
around with these all day long. As they
Yeah,
say,
some people do.
chilling out.
Yeah, some
Well,
people wear them
yeah,
often.
people will think you're just listening to your playlist or something.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Put it in your
Okay.
pocket and off you go.
Yeah.
All right. So let's, yeah, summary. This is your own summary of what you found, isn't it? We're using gamma.
Yeah.
And with these different problems, you've got all the frequencies are here now, like FM 32 to 45, and adjusting
That's
the
your
power.
gamma range.
Let's emphasize that you do have classes that teach all this stuff that people. It's not difficult to learn, but you take a lot of trouble to make sure that people do know what they're doing, and that's where we harvested some of these amazing stories, isn't it? Like the guy in Israel. I mean, you know.
So
They have all over the world. We have experts. What did you find here?
So what we did an in-house study of many clients that we have, and where we asked them if those who suffer from anxiety, depression, PTSD, sleep disturbance, ADHD, if they would try the different programs, and we found that gamma gave us 95% improvement on anxiety, 85% improvement in depression, 75% improvement of PTSD, 90% improvement in sleep length and quality.
That's awesome.
And
yeah.
75% on ADHD.
Now, you've got a word here, trigeminal pads. Let me just take a second to say that's those pads on the guy's forehead. We're reaching the trigeminal
The trigeminal nerve is part of the cranial nerve complex, and the complex includes, of course, your eyesight, your hearing, your taste. All of these things are part of your cranial nerves. So your trigeminal nerve connects to your cranial. Now, to be able to access the cranial nerve, that part of the cranial nerve, the vagus nerve is also a cranial nerve, by the way. So the trigeminal nerve, we find that you can access it just by placing pads over the eyebrows. And you can turn your device on at night. And this is how they've been able to achieve this level of success. And this is also what's been accepted by the FDA or cleared by the FDA.
Right. Again, that's marvelous then. Okay, let's move on to scars. Let's keep rolling forward. I think folks are getting it, that there's something awesome here. What about, why are scars important, John?
A scar will build electrical charge all the way up to 1.5 volts, which is a lot of electrical charge. It becomes what we call a capacitor. So an electrical capacitor is an electronic device that actually stores electricity. So your scar then stores electricity, and it blocks communication between organs, systems, and cells. And we talked about the medical model of communication, where every cell needs to talk to each other constantly. And when it runs into a 1.5 volt block or a scar, communication breaks down.
Right.
So
now, in the West, we're used to the idea that we communicate through, like collagen fibers and so on. That's now a pretty well accepted model, I think. But it's also going to disturb the Chinese meridians, I guess, is it? Is it going to block them?
It certainly does, because these meridians are also tightly bound collagen fibers as well.
Yeah.
So what happens is that normal collagen is water bound, making it, giving it the speed that it needs for that constant communication. When a scar tissue is the same collagen that replaces the normal water-bound collagen, but scar tissue collagen is dry. It no longer has that water.
So it can't communicate.
Doesn't work so well, yeah.
It becomes a capacitor instead of a conductor.
Right, so you start by clearing that up then. Okay, inflammation we've mentioned a couple of times. Let's, anything else to be gleaned here from this one?
Only that as long as you are having inflammation, it's impossible to heal of anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's look at the left here. I mean, there's a lot of diseases. You're saying 4,000. I'm surprised anyone's had the patience to count them, but I'd go along with that. Certainly would be right. But the middle bullet there,
we have two ideal modes for the inflammation. One of them is acute, which is the 345, and we have 121 for the chronic inflammation.
Right. And if you deal with it, pain goes away. Eh?
Well, then
Now, what
your
about
body
it coming back, John? I mean, obviously, folks are going to say, oh, well, it'll be back next morning. But that isn't what happens, is it? Tell us what happens.
What's interesting here is that it isn't treatment. We're not looking at treatment. We're looking at resolution.
Ah, right. I think most people get that, but just lay it on with another sentence, will you?
Yeah. The idea behind microcurrent treatment is, sure, we take the pain down, chronic pain or pain that's been there from an 8 back down to a 0. It may come back the next day, but it won't come back to an 8. It might come back to a 6. You do another treatment, it'll come back down to a 4. Until within a short period of time, we've resolved it completely, because it's not only the pain itself, but you have to remember that it's your brain that gives you pain. So we need to resolve the need for that pain.
Right. Yeah.
Now,
resolving underlying causes. Yeah.
How far back can we go? I've actually treated somebody who was in pain, a level 6 pain, since he was 18 years old, and he came to see me in his late 50s.
30 years or more.
Later, he was walking totally pain-free. The foot had straightened out. His question was, "But will this last?"
Obvious.
Weeks later to 2 months later, he met me in Sacramento. He brought his daughter, who was going through some problems, and he said, "Not only do I no longer have pain in my hip, no longer do I need to walk with a cane, no longer do I need to take medication daily." He said, "But my shoulder is fixed as well, and I don't know how that happened." My hip.
It reminds me of a case, an old lady I did in Spain when I first got the device. I barely knew how to switch it on, but she had arthritic knees, and I treated the right knee and said, tomorrow we'll compare the two, right? Thinking, well, this one's a lot better, but the left one is still hurting. She said next day, the pain had gone from both knees, and it stayed away. 6 months later, I left Spain. She still had no pain.
Yep.
So that's a whole different paradigm to conventional medicine, where you've got to work on the piece, the exact spot. We're working on the energetics, which reverberate through the whole body, and we're working on brain. Well, a sort of brain pharmacy, really, isn't it? The brain will produce neuropeptides and things it needs to solve the problem. The emphasis being on the word solve. There's no solution in painkillers. You just have to keep taking them every 6 hours or so. And then it comes back. It takes some more, and then it comes back.
Then you get to fix the holes in your gut.
Yeah, okay. So this is a setting now. RSI, I'm guessing, stands for repetitive strain injury. Is that right?
Exactly right.
Okay, so explain us what this setting is, or what it does then, I should say.
What it does, it actually, it's once we've handled the inflammation, when you put it onto the RSI program, it increases by up to 500% the amount of adenosine triphosphate, which is actually ATP, is the gasoline that makes your body function.
Yeah, energy molecule. Yeah.
So what we need to do is, what it does actually is it increases the speed of new cells and new cell life. So you need cells to be able to repair.
Yeah, that's true.
If I increase by 500% my capacity to repair by increasing ATP production, I have 500% more cells that are being produced.
Right. Okay, I mentioned Chinese meridians. Some people know this model, not everybody uses it, but if you know it, how would you use a device like that to stimulate an acupuncture meridian?
We have every meridian has, and this is interesting because meridians are actually far away from the precious organs. The stimulation points are.
Yeah.
If I was to work on my gallbladder, I wouldn't work out over the gallbladder, but I may go down to the second from my little toe, right at the web, and I would work on that point.
Yeah.
And that would be my stimulation point for the gallbladder. Believe it or not, the gallbladder meridian may also be the cause of your headaches in your neck. Or
It's a
the
big
neck
one.
pain that won't go away. It may be causing the migraines that are hemiplegic, that are only on one side of your head.
But you can
Right.
use the meridian system to take energy away or add energy to. So depending on whether you need to take away or to put it in, you know, with the device, it's easy to do that because there's always a stimulation point and there's a point to take energy out, isn't there?
So
Yeah.
we've written an excellent paper on this, on how to stimulate, or it's actually attenuate or stimulate points on organs that represent different body systems.
Right. I was going to say something. What? Oh, yes. You don't need to know or use the Chinese traditional medicine system, do you? Yeah, this device works miracles anyway without having to learn about meridians and all that stuff.
You just need to know where to put it.
And actually, you can put the device almost anywhere on the body to resolve a problem anywhere on the body.
Yeah,
So
anywhere else. Work it on somebody's foot and it'll fix their headaches. Actually, that's being a bit silly, but in fact, it's close to the truth, isn't it? It's pretty true. The body is a whole organism, so if you zap the whole organism with the wonderful algorithms you guys have developed, the whole body benefits. All right. Onboard. Well, I mentioned the onboard pharmacy, but do you want to explain this, John?
Well, it's interesting that the body can produce probably more different chemicals than most manufacturers could ever dream of making. It's just being able to harness them, to get into them. And this was the basis for the SCINAR, the self-controlled and neuroadaptive regulator that the Russians come up with, because they were wanting to send cosmonauts onto the space, which they did, the space platform, for periods way beyond a year, but they couldn't send medication up there. And they said, how are we going to get them to fix themselves? So they discovered that if you stimulate the body in a certain way, you can get the brain to produce the chemicals necessary to accelerate healing.
Right, and the certain way meaning microcurrent therapy.
Exactly.
Okay, now listen, this is going to be on everybody's minds at the moment. We're not going to name any, well, this looks like somebody's set of golf tees stuck into a Christmas pudding, doesn't it? Anyway, we all know what that is. But this you can boost the immune system very usefully, can't you, using these devices? Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Well, one of the oh my God, how would I say, the saddest things that is going on is that this disease is taking away our elders. 50%, almost 50% of the deaths in Canada are actually related to are actually dying from low immune response.
Yeah.
So if you have a low immune response, if you have comorbidities such as cardiovascular, you may have diabetes, you may have all kinds of other problems, then then you are more susceptible to disappearing.
Right. Well, in Italy, I read that 90%, 90% of the people who died were 70 or more, and 10% of the deaths were in people who were over 90. So it's very much an age thing, isn't it? But anyway, the point is, answer my question. Can this thing boost your immunity? Tell us how it goes.
We have two really good protocols for immune boosting, and that's the two that we would suggest people did.
Right. Okay. And we'll emphasize you do teaching as well for people who've got these devices. All right, so you know my jokey saying ever since we've met has been every home should have one.
You got to find a place to put it in there. So
well, I was going to say we should take the photograph again. Get Rob to retake. It's not your medicine cabinet, I'm sure, but with an Evatzia in it. Anyway, that is what we mean. It's just so perfect. You just have it in the medicine cabinet. If you've got kids, you've got elders, you've got anybody in any stage of life, it does so many useful things. What am I missing? Yeah, cuts, bruises, sprains, fractures, wounds. Well, you know, scuff your knees, whatever, acute and chronic.
Yeah, tummy bugs, headaches, I don't know, everything.
Pain of all. I mean, it's just such a wonderful thing. Anyway, we're going to be introducing you to this device, folks, the Evolution. But I want to say before we do that, that we are going to take care of you and make sure you learn how to use this thing. There's a wonderful book that comes free, a training manual. What you're seeing on the left is a sample page. Yeah? Yes, there you go. And how many pages? I mean, you know, 50 or 100 pages.
Do you know, 30.
Yeah, okay. So all that you need, all the simple basic things that you need to know there. And you follow up with 2 months of online free training, and you can do personalized treatment plans as well if you want. But look, let's repeat an important point that we made before. This is an official device. This is not a woo. This is not a rogue or bandit device that the FDA are going to knock on your door and confiscate. They like it. Listen, you were telling me, John, we're like 2/3 of the football league here. What's it called? The NFL teams have got one of these devices. Why? Because an injured footballer is costing a lot of money, and if you can get him back playing again in 5 days instead of 3 weeks, that's a huge saving. So everybody's very happy about the fact that it works, that it's medically and scientifically validated and is approved. It's got its CE mark. It's approved. What's the Canadian flag one? What's it called? Canadian Health what?
Health Canada.
Health Canada. Oh yeah. Oh, it's at the bottom there. Yeah, I see. All right. So Laurie, coming back to this now, this is a card that you told me everyone who gets one of these devices is going to be. This card will be included. So please explain again. I mean, I think this is an incredibly generous offer that you guys are doing, like 60 days of free training. I mean, that's awesome. You just don't usually see that. So what is it that a person actually gets?
Well, so each of these cards come with every device. So it gives you the opportunity to take 2 months, 60 days worth of free training on our online training platform, really. It goes through all the different modes. It shows you how to use your device. It teaches you different protocols, all the basic protocols that you would need to use it to start with.
Do they learn how to do vagal nerve stimulation on this?
Yes, that's on there. 3 pathways is on there.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything that you would need to start with. It also goes through the basics, like how do you turn your device on? How do you put batteries in? You know, all the things that are important for you to know, how to attach an accessory. The thing is, by giving this, we find that it allows people the opportunity to just get into the device to start with. You don't even need to start your 60 days from the moment you get your device. So it's not until you sign on just your 60 days start. Some people wait a while. Some people just don't have the time to start with. Some people play with the device first. But once they've actually gone onto it, they realize how important it was to them. And the fact is, it is free.
Right. And what's it worth? You know, like $1,000, $2,000. You can't put a price on this, can you? You know, world-class experts teaching you what to do. And you guys, I know you're so good. If people have questions, they can email you, even on the phone, dare I say it. But, you know, you don't turn people away or hide behind customer service or all that.
No, we always answer our own phone. There's one, it's either John, myself, or Robert. So that's the people you get.
Hey, can't be better. Okay, so the big reveal, folks. Let's go take a look. What is it we're actually offering here for you today? Well, on the left there is the standalone device, but you might not want to do that. You might want to consider this wonderfully generous package offer. Talk us through this. John, will you start us off and then maybe let Laurie do part 2?
What we call the standalone, or the Avazi Life Evolution standalone device. It means that the device can be used on its own. It has an onboard electrode that is embedded into the back side of the device so that you can use it anywhere autonomously, the way it is. So, but if you want to expand your device, if you want to expand its possibilities, then, and most people, I'll tell you, 95% of the people that we sell this technology to end up buying all of the accessories that you see on the right side.
Right, well, talk us through those in a minute. For those of you, I know you've got this far and some of you are just itching to get one. Why not? It's a no-brainer. You need one of these. And to get it, the URL is up on the top right of your screen there. The Sana Shop. Okay, so www.thesanashop.com. Now, it doesn't matter upper or lowercase letters for The Sana Shop. I've written it there with capitals. But after the .com, the slash KSM, no prizes for guessing what that stands for. Wow. But it has to be uppercase. It's case sensitive after the .com. So uppercase, or for those of you who talk differently, capital letters, KSM. So if you go over there now, you'll find somebody waiting there. There is a contact or a chat button, I should say, where you can actually ask questions. And some of you I know are just ready to make this move. Over you go there now. Okay, so tell us about this package, both of you. Take it in turns or whatever. How do you want to do it?
Go ahead.
Well, everything that comes in the kit actually helps with all the different protocols for each of the different programs within it. So you have the whole thing. You have the comb, you have the Y probe, all the different pads for vagus nerve, for just pain. You have ear clips for sleep. So everything comes included in this kit at the $19.95. But we're also going to offer you an extra gift, which is the PEMF pad, which is worth $300, and you would get that free of charge.
Right. So first of all, let's take the package, the kit. I mean, a person is going to save money on that anyway. To buy the pieces separately would cost them more. So, I mean, it really makes sense, folks, to just, just ante up and squeeze this extra $400 and get the package. It's in that nice case, yes, a nice carry case. So you get everything together that you need to be really effective. I mean, this is practitioner standard stuff. It just doesn't have everything that the big luxury sports model has, but it has everything you need to do the kind of healing we've been talking about. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So it's a fabulous deal. Anyway, makes sense. And then you're throwing in this extra £300 to $300 pad. That's got to be good. I mean, if you're doing something like benign prostatic hypertrophy, which I know it's good for, you can just sit on the thing, watch TV.
Yeah, you can put it on your lower back, or you can put it under your pillow, or you can put it under your dog's crate, or wherever he sleeps or the dog sleeps. And so what it does, it sends everything that is in the device through as a pulse electromagnetic field. You just have to choose which program that you want to use.
Right, and it's sort of broadcast. Anyone stuck a goldfish bowl on there and healed a sickly goldfish? Anyone done that yet?
We have baby fish at the moment. Perhaps I should put it on the fish tank.
I never thought of
that. give them a whirl. Okay, that URL, folks, to get this amazing offer. We'll come back and talk about it just a bit more. But you go to this URL, the top right of your screen there, www.thesanashop.com, and then /KSM in capital or uppercase letters, KSM. And as I say, it is case sensitive. So you can get all these goodies for less than $2,000. I mean, the shipping and handling, yeah, but that's relatively small these days, isn't it? And you get all these wonderful things. What are these brownie things? Next to the Y Pro. What are those?
Those are just conductive pads.
Yeah, things to come anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere. I mean, all the pads you can put anywhere, actually, but those ones are just ones that most people use for pain. So they put them on one side of a knee and the other side of the knee so that they can run the current through the knee.
Right, and it comes with all the cables you need to connect these bits and pieces. Yeah, that blue thing that looks like a comb. Tell it, what's that? How does that work?
Well, that works for, we usually use it on people's heads, but sometimes we use it on like hairy backs, don't we? Sort of. So if men have a lot of hair or beards or something, we can use it to get through that, or pets used for animals. So it's really quite useful. You wouldn't believe how many people do use it. At first they think, oh, what am I going to use that for? But it is used.
Yeah, it transmits the current through the hair or through the hair or whatever you're doing. Yeah. Let's reiterate, folks, this is brilliant for pets. If you've got cats, dogs, budgies, maybe goldfish, get back to us. Then you can heal them using this amazing life-restoring technology. It's just wonderful. Get yourself one, folks. I can't say do any better. It's like my joke, as I said, every home should have one of these in the medicine cupboard. It'd save you a ton of money for a start. I mean, don't even look.
No joke.
It's not a joke.
Not a
It is.
I mean, don't even look at the price. It's not what it costs. It's what is it going to save you? And over the years, it could save you thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah, I mean, especially with with injury, once established and messed around with by incompetent surgeons, or you have back surgery, it's never going to go away from that point. It's going to be just an endlessly running bill, a bottomless pit into which you throw money, and you still got pain in the back. This could save you all of that. So I think it's a damn good investment. Wonderful model. You guys are absolute geniuses for bringing this up. This is your model, right? I can't get it anywhere else. You developed this personally based on your 20 years of skill and knowledge. Yeah.
You won't find it anywhere else.
No, we put the best or the most useful 8 modes in this device.
Yeah, great. And full of love, of course. Okay, you two wonderful people. Lovely to talk to you, as always. And thanks for sharing and, coming along and telling us all about this amazing microcurrent therapy.
Thank you very much, Keith.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. And everyone, take care.
All right, welcome. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.